He began jostling with police. He began shouting that, this was all sort of a corrupted, it was unjust and an insult to the American people and lived experience. It was unclear what he was referring to, but, there seems to be a bit of a through line from that message and the extensive sort of online writings that he has made, and is this manifesto that police found in a backpack when they arrested him yesterday. And it's, he sort of putting himself forward, I guess, as a bit of a hero who is fighting corruption in the healthcare system, it would appear. His demeanor in court was also quite interesting. He sort of slouched back in his chair and smiled at the public gallery, which was packed with journalists. And at one point, he tried to address the judge, but was quickly shut down by his lawyer.
Luigi Mangione, the suspect in last week's killing of the chief executive of United Healthcare, is fighting his extradition to New York, where he faces a murder charge. He was heard shouting and addressing reporters as he entered a court in Pennsylvania earlier today.
Luigi, do it. And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Well, Mangione was arrested after being spotted eating at a McDonald's in Altoona in Pennsylvania, and has been the subject of many social media memes, finding some support amongst social media users. Bevan Hurley is a senior US reporter for The Times and joins us now. Bevan, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Tell us, first of all, a bit about this court appearance today.
Yeah, it was quite shocking, really. So he was taken from the prison to this extradition hearing in near Altoona in Pennsylvania this afternoon, and he began jostling with police. He began shouting that this was all sort of a corrupted, it was unjust and an insult to the American people and lived experience. It was unclear what he was referring to, but there seems to be a bit of a through line from that message and the extensive sort of online writings that he has made, and is this manifesto that police found in a backpack when they arrested him yesterday. And it's, he sort of putting himself forward, I guess, as a bit of a hero who is fighting corruption in the healthcare system, it would appear. His demeanor in court was also quite interesting. He sort of slouched back in his chair and smiled at the public gallery, which was packed with journalists. And at one point, he tried to address the judge, but was quickly shut down by his lawyer. But the judge in this case basically has remanded him back in custody. He denied bail, and by all accounts, Mr. Mangione is going to be fighting extradition to New York. He has pled guilty to the charges that he's facing in Pennsylvania, and his lawyer a few minutes ago, a guy by the name of Thomas Dickey, said that it was under the impression that he would indeed plead not guilty to the New York charges as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear to people listening who are wondering why he's facing extradition, it's because he was arrested in a different state from where the shooting took place, which was, of course, in New York City. And this is to do with the murder of the United Healthcare chief executive, Brian Thompson, who was shot dead outside a luxury hotel. And I mean, I asked this question last night, but I think for people listening will think, well, there are literally, sadly, many thousands of killings each year in the United States. But this one has really become a big story, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, there was obviously the shocking nature of this killing. It was an assassination style killing. It was caught on camera. The gunman, was masked. He appeared to take extraordinary measures to not only evade police, but evade any sort of identification. He was masked for, days when he was staying in this hostel on the Upper West Side in New York City prior to the killing. And it appears that, the real break in this case came when a gentleman in this McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, recognized his face. And that was really only down to the fact that he pulled his mask down just for a few seconds when he was flirting with a receptionist in this hostel in New York. So, but for that minor detail in this extraordinary story, he could have evaded justice for a lot longer. And yeah, as you say, it really has touched a nerve in the US, and that's Primarily, I think because of the healthcare industry being such an unpopular thing for many Americans. I'm sure your listeners will be familiar with the private healthcare over here. It can be an extremely cruel and expensive and ruthlessly really puts its own profits ahead of people's suffering, and that's why we've seen this sort of outpouring of sympathy and some really quite callous reactions to the cold-blooded murder of a father of two.
And quite extraordinarily, Luigi Mangione, the suspect accused of murder, is the focus of a huge amount of social media attention.
Yes, I mean, the Free Luigi hashtags were all over the place on social media today. Many people sharing their own stories of being denied coverage, of having to, see their loved ones suffer and really not receive the kind of medical attention that they probably deserved. But I guess that's just a nature of life in America. It is a corporate profit-based sort of world. And when that extends to something like healthcare, which is such a personal, sensitive topic for so many people, it has really led to this. It's a little uncomfortable seeing people celebrate murder and celebrate a murderer, but that's kind of, I guess, this ultra online sort of society that we live in now.
And what happens next then with this case?
So Mangione's been remanded in custody for 14 days. The authorities in New York will have to seek what's known as a governor's warrant to remove him from Pennsylvania custody and take him back to New York City. Once that happens, and I guess that could be a matter of days or weeks or slightly longer, he will be formally charged on that murder charge in New York City. And once that happens, I guess, there's a whole sort of secondary legal process that will begin. It sounds as if, from the sort of quite defiant words of his lawyer just a few minutes ago, that he is intending to plead not guilty. It's interesting how that will contrast with, his manifesto, in which he basically says that I did it and I'm proud of it, kind of thing.
And it's an extraordinary case. Bevan Hurley, senior US reporter for The Times. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
14 days for the defendant to file a petition for habeas corpus challenging the extradition, and he gave us 30 days for us to procure a governor's warrant from New York, which is the legal document necessary to effectuate the extradition.
What's the strategy for waiving your extradition? Is there one?
Well, it simply gets the inevitable started sooner. I mean, it is, we're going to do what's necessary to get the governor's warrant, and we're working, with the New York City Police Department and Manhattan DA's office, and we're going to get the defendant up there so they can prosecute him on their charges. So waiving, accelerates that process. Contesting it, just provides more hoops for law enforcement and prosecutors to jump through, but we're happy to do that.
Were you disappointed?
Well, they have 14 days to file a petition for habeas corpus, and that would simply be a document challenging the Commonwealth's ability to prove that the defendant is the person that the state of New York has issued the arrest warrant for.
But that has nothing to do with the ability to go, be able to go out on bail, to be free on bail in the meantime. So for now, I mean, how much long is the bail denied all the way until trial?
Well, this defendant now has two dockets in Blair County. One docket will go away once he is extradited, and that is his fugitive from justice charge. And the judge denied bail on that until, obviously, the judge makes a ruling on any defense motions, at which time we anticipate the state of New York will be able to collect the defendant. The other local charges, the encounter between the Altoona Police Department and the defendant has been denied bail on that case as well, which the Pennsylvania Constitution provides for when the judge finds it appropriate under the circumstances.
So your main goal right now is to have him extradited to New York? That's what you're working towards?
Our primary focus is to cooperate with the New York City Police Department and Manhattan District Attorney's Office so this defendant can be prosecuted for his New York homicide charge, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.